We in St. Michael's welcome with great joy the news that churches are to reopen for prayer and service. At long last, upon deep reflection, consideration, planning, a series of meetings, St. Michael's Church is to be reopened to her parishioners and the general public to come and worship with us, to worship our Maker, who is God, centered around the Eucharist and the Word of God. May I say that we have endeavored to the best of our ability to keep to the government and church guidelines to ensure that the risk of transmission is minimized. This is so because the safety and health of you, our dear parishioners, is first of all our priority. These guidelines and conditions that I'm going to mention will be reviewed from time to time as and when necessary. And it's our hope that everyone who plans to worship with us, who plans to join us, will understand, cooperate, and comply with the guidelines. And we pray that God will help us, that we all be safe and secure. The first point I'd like to talk about is a general requirement. Nobody is required to come to church in person. It is not by obligation. The obligation to attend Sunday Mass is still suspended. And so if you don't feel comfortable coming to church at this time in point, stay home and follow the live streaming that would always come your way. But these other persons would also implore to consider their coming to church. Stay home if you are in the following category of people that I'm going to mention. This is a requirement, but if you so wish to do, it's at your own risk, but we don't want to risk your life. So we please ask you to stay home if you are in the vulnerable category. And in the vulnerable category, we just say those who are over 70 years and who have 70 years, those with severe underlying health issues, to please stay home. The second is those who are children, those who are self-isolating, and those in quarantine should not come to church. If you are displaying COVID-19 or flu-like symptoms, please don't come, stay home. And if you are living with people that I've mentioned above, the vulnerable group, children isolated or in quarantine or displaying, please don't come, because you place those people's life at risk. As we consider coming to church, at the moment, our church is going to be opened next weekend, hopefully. Everything is set to open next weekend. And throughout the week, from Monday, we hope that we'll open the church for private prayer. Private prayer is probably just coming with a family and be seated silently in prayer, or as an individual. And those times will be from 4 to 7 p.m. And whenever a person goes into the pew to say a prayer, there will be a cleaner or some of the volunteers to make sure that the place is wiped, cleaned, and disinfected. Masses for our celebrations are going to be, apart from this week that we started, that from Monday, when we start at the weekend, we're going to go back to 9 o'clock Mass for the weekdays. So from Monday to Friday, 9 o'clock Mass. On Saturday, for now, we have the 6 p.m. as we have today, and on Sunday, we have 3 Masses, 7:30, 9 o'clock, and 11 o'clock. So these are the 3 on Sundays for now, as we try to see how best things will work out. How are we going to come for Mass? Masses are to be pre-booked. We have to book the times for Masses online. By tomorrow evening or Monday morning, it should be ready on our website, St. Michael's E6, on the website. And then when you log in, It is just going to ask you a few questions, not difficult ones. Do you agree with the guidelines and all the conditions set up? Agree. Next. And it will be there. Are you in the vulnerable category? No. Yes. If definitely no, you are not going to really get into it. So that is it. Which mass or what mass are you going to attend? Then you choose the type of mass or the time of the mass you're going to attend, and then you give your name and details. We're not so much as giving all your names and all of that, but if I say I'm Francis, my details is enough for it. Now, in logging in, it's if you are one person, 2, 3, you have to log individually. If you are coming as a family and you are more than 4, then you choose the category which is 4+. So whether you're 5, you're 6, you're 7, you have to occupy one bench or pew in the church. So you choose the 4+ if you're a family of more than 4. Apart from that, if you are 2 and all of that, unless it's your child who is coming with you, just do you yourself. But if the child is more than 18, she has to log in if you are 2. If you cannot do this, the registration online, please call the parish office and note the times and days that you want to attend Mass. We encourage, yes, exactly, with your phone number as well. So I think you all know the parish line and all that. So you note your name, your phone number, and you indicate the day and the time that you want to attend. We encourage people also to use the weekday slot so that we can give opportunities to others who are probably working the weekday and cannot really attend Mass on the weekdays, so that they get opportunities to come on Sundays. However, you can book on Sundays, you can book all of that. When we realize that some people are not able to come to church, they are not able to book every time, we may have to speak to some of you who have had the chance and opportunities to attend more Masses, to give way, charity, and love to your other parishioner to have, also encounter the Eucharistic celebration. And please note this. Yes, we are going to book online and you will book for your Masses. But we humbly ask you that because of the whole thing, the complications, and people have to take their temperature and you have to sanitize, come early. Because 2 minutes to the beginning of the Mass, whether you have booked or not booked, is going to be closed. We're not going to allow people to enter. Or if somebody is around that unfortunately wouldn't have booked, we'll allow that person in, because when we start the Mass, we do not want a lot of movement anymore. So if you are booking, please come early so that we have a good celebration. Safeguarding recommendations. You may be required, and it is compulsory, to wear face coverings, mask, face visors, and all that can do to just protect you and protect others. Because, as I've said, we have marked the church with a 1 meter distance, and the government requirement is that if that is used, then mitigations must be used. So that is wearing the face covering. If perchance a child who is or breastfeeding or cannot wear it, we've just had only one pew just to accommodate those children and their parents so that they are not infected or nothing happens to them. But almost all the benches are marked with 1 meter. So when you are coming, please come with your face masks, your shield, your visors. We are not going to give you masks. If you have to come here without masks, you may have to pay £50 before we give you one mask. If you want to contribute to that, that's fair enough. So the next thing is that we humbly ask parishioners that we will have volunteers. People, they are not being paid. They have just volunteered to help us. So there will be stewards there directing us. There will be ushers leading us to where we have to sit. Please let us try as much as possible to listen and obey their direction and guidelines. It is for the good of all of us. Because as we come to church, outside the church, there is going to be markings on the floor marked with 2 meters. So as they direct you, please keep to the meter. And the moment you get here, if you are not wearing your mask, wear it. Enter. As you enter, you need to sanitize your hands. And it will be at the entrance of the church, as well as at the exit point of the church. The sanitizer we have is not pressed with the hand, it's pressed with the foot. So when you come, you just look at it, press it with your foot, and then the liquid will come and you use it. So this you do before and after Mass. The temperature will be taken from people who know so much about this. There is one-way system in our church. So as all of you who know how St. Michael's is, when you're coming to church, you come through the main door. And when you come through the main door, we all exit by the fire door, the smaller door at the right of the church when you enter, but now it's at my left. So if you are going to have your seat led by the usher, they will lead you in such a way that you have to take the seat. When you come, probably only at this end that you can sit at the last end, but we have to be filling up before we get to the edge of it so that no one will inconvenience the other. If you have to go back to the church, you don't have to go through the middle aisle. You have to go round like that. And if you have to come back, you have to come through the main aisle. There's no way that you say that, oh, I was just sitting down there, so I'll get back. No, it's one-way system. You come through that, either you go this way, and then the next movement is going outside. So that is the one-way system. Our church would have a minimum capacity of 54. Let me put it this way, of 56. And for maximum, we depend on how things really go, but we don't have to exceed a certain number. If we are exceeding, the stewards and the ushers will tell us so, and we'll stop everyone coming to the church. For funeral and baptism and other paraliturgical activities, the maximum to be in church is only 30. So if there is a funeral, if there's a baptism, we cannot, no matter how many seats and pews we have, we cannot exceed the 30 number. This is from the government and from the Bishops' Conference. At the moment, there is no time specifically for confessions. If you so desire and need to have confession, book with any one of us, Canon Bob or myself, and then we'll find the appropriate time to have this confession as it stands now. It may change and we'll have it for that. The next thing is about singing. As I've already mentioned, there's not going to be any congregational singing. That means all of us who have come to church, we are not going to sing. The books will not be there. There will be no whatever sheet giving us as to how to sing. But I know that some of us know almost all the hymns in the book. That does not give us a chance to sing. No. The priests are not going to sing. So today I sang through him, with him. When we come, I cannot do that any longer. So what we are intending to do is that it is not set now. If there should be anything, there will be a cantor and the organist. But at the moment, we cannot even use the cantor. We can only probably use the organist, who will not be singing, but probably play some music to accompany us during the entrance, during the offertory, during communion time, and then something to be played when we are exiting. Reading. All readers and all ministers, if they are to be used, will be sitting on the sanctuary or in the sanctuary with other altar servers. Today, this time, we're not going to have many altar servers. The maximum altar servers we could have is 6, plus the 2 readers. And, well, for now, we are not going to have extraordinary ministers of the Eucharist. We would try it as much as possible, myself and Father Bob, to maintain for the time being. And so the readers will be sitting at my right-hand side so that there's not a lot of movement here and there. If you're coming from a family, fine. We know you'll be seated. And when you're coming to read, you have to wear gloves at the time of reading so that a lot of contact and touching will not be. And you'll be given printed readings. You'll not be using the lectionary. So readers should take, and the moment you finish reading, you dispose of the gloves. There are some bins right there, you drop them in, and then you go to sit down. And if you have to sanitize, you need to do that. Finances and offerings. There will be 2 silver containers at the entrance of the church and at the exit point of the church. Silver containers, so they'll be so clear. And that is where you have to drop your offerings, your donations, and other collections you want to help the church with, either the time you enter or when you are exiting. So to be at this point. There is no offertory procession. So everything will be done as we're doing it now. The other thing about contribution or donation to the church is that we encourage parishioners to also continue with donation online, which we have the link on our website. It's also printed on the newsletter. And in some of our YouTube videos, the links are placed in the description box. Or if you could, set a standing order with your bank so that from time to time you'll be able to contribute to the church's coffers. The next thing is about the sign of peace. There is not going to be any exchange of the sign of peace, except with a nod or with a bow. So no talking peace. Communion. All ministers will sanitize their hands before and after communion. And as I mentioned to you the other time, when I have to use a ciborium, which is going to be distributed to parishioners, that ciborium will not be opened until the time of communion, when the minister has to distribute it. And before it is opened, the priest, if I mean ministers, is the priest and the extraordinary minister. They have to sanitize their hands first. Even when they consume theirs before they distribute, you have to sanitize. Okay? And after the distribution of communion, we will sanitize as well before all of it happens. Should there be the case that as I distribute communion, I happen to touch the hand of a person, I would have to sanitize before I continue. And probably the person whose hand I touch would have to use the sanitizer at that very moment as you go to sit. So let us be conscious of this. Now, communion at this time is only going to be given in the hand. So we are not going to give the communion on the tongue. It's by hand. And there is a distance between the priest and the minister and the communicant, which is 1 meter. So it means that as we come to distribute communion, the priest or the ministers will put on visors so that they avoid the droplets in giving the communion. And during communion, one thing that we also have to know that as we come to church, some of us don't come for communion, some of us are not communicants, and some of us also don't stand for or to come for blessing. But unfortunately, this time round, in order not to inconvenience any other person by passing and having contact, if you are in the pew during communion time, we all have to come out of the pew. If you're a communicant, you receive your communion. If you want a blessing, you receive the blessing. If you don't want the communion and you don't want any blessing, just follow it and go that way. But at that point, we humbly expect everybody to come through so that there's not going to be that contact enough when somebody is passing. Lighting of candles. Candles will be there to be lighted. If you want to light a candle, you make sure that you light it first before you go to sit down. Or you leave it till when you are leaving the church. Then you light the candle. This is that if you happen to have it sit in the middle and you want to now light a candle, you inconvenience almost everyone sitting by you. So you either light it before you go to sit down, or you wait when you are exiting the church, you go and light it. And please remember, you have to light your candles from pre-existing candles. So if it's the little ones that you can light from there, do it straight away. The tapers and the lighters that we have were supposed to be taken away. But what we have to do is that there will be tissues there. So if you happen to use a taper or a lighter, pick a tissue to use the taper there so that you don't touch it because people might have touched it. Use the tissue, light from the pre-existing candles, and then after put it back into it. Then burn the tissue. If you want to also wear gloves in order to hold it, that is fine. but there will be tissues placed there. Remember, as we all know, if you have just sanitized your hands, you don't have to light the candles. Wait for some few minutes or few moments, otherwise there might be an explosion or burns, which we are not ready for it now. When it happens that you have taken a votive candle and you realize that, oh no, this is not the type I was looking for, since you have touched it, don't put it back at where you took it. Put it on one of the black trays and then it will be dealt with after Mass, just so we control the spread of the virus. Finally, hygiene and cleaning. We humbly ask all parishioners that sometimes we may forget ourselves. If you happen to sneeze or to cough, we can't stop it. But try as much as possible to cover your nose, to cover your mouth, so that it doesn't spread out. We cannot say that you may not come and not sneeze. These things are sometimes just come, involuntarily. But if you should happen to sneeze or cough, please cover your mouth so that the other person doesn't feel uncomfortable. Toilet facilities are going to be closed. Masses are going to be shorter, as we have mentioned. We'll try. And so within 40 minutes, 45 minutes, you should be leaving here. So toilets will not be opened, and there's going to be limit to those who are entering the sacristy, apart from the altar servers and the sacristans who will prepare things for the day. Nobody else is allowed to go to the sacristy, and so nobody else is going to go to the toilet. Sorry, but that's how things are, because you cannot have a person there to be looking at who goes to the toilet and sort of. So you understand me and pardon my words. If you happen to use any paper or there's a garbage, please try as much as possible not to spread it on the floor. If you use tissue, please don't drop it on the floor. Try as much as possible to put them. There are a lot of bins around in the church, and please cover them. If it was about sneezing and about that, try to use another tissue to cover so that there's not so much transmission of that. Newsletters will be available, and in the newsletters we may have the readings, not all the readings per se, but at least the responsorial psalm, so that when it is long and we'll be able to respond with the responsorial psalm on it and the rest of it. And whenever you take a newsletter, please take it home. Or if you don't want to take it home, try to bin it, but don't put it in any on the pews. And just to let you know that the church will be cleaned and disinfected after every Mass. So that means that since we have 7:30, 9 o'clock, and 11 o'clock, the moment we finish Mass, there's not going to be enough time for you to probably spend in church and all of that. The next Mass would have to be prepared. So the moment we finish Mass and all that, you say your prayer quickly, and then you follow what the ushers will direct, and then we all leave. Then the church will be clean, disinfected, and the next Mass will be on. I believe that there may be others, but these are the ones that I would like us all to note. Thank you very much for listening, and we hope and pray that with your cooperation, patience, and understanding, we will all be secure, safe, and healthy. And the most important thing is that we are all trying our best, and these are all physical things, but pray. As you leave your house, pray. As you come, pray. As you finish Mass, pray that God Himself will keep us all safe. Thank you.